Mishnah 14. So Rabbi Dosa ben Horkonos says, Shena shel shachris, sleeping in during the morning, v'yayin shel tzacharayim, getting drunk at lunchtime, sichas hayaladim, right, children's idle chatter, gufanach like a kid, v'yeshivat bate knesset shel amei haaretz, and sitting in sports bars. Right? Motziin et ha'adam min ha'olam. These things take a person out of the world. Destroy everything. So there's a couple of ways to look at these. These are all minor suicides. But they're also false pleasures. Right? That they're false pleasures. So what's Shena Shel Shachar, sleeping in the morning, sleeping through the day? Now I think there might be, for a few weeks a year, a special dispensation for teenage boys that they can go through with this. Right? You know, the couple of weeks here or there after you finish, the Zman, right? Finals, right? That, they need to catch up from the weeks and they get to sleep in the morning. But at a certain point you have to look at them and say, you know what? Starting tomorrow, that 8 o'clock minion is there for a reason. But there's room for, I'm willing to grant that there's a room for a few days of, and every once in a while there's a certain pleasure to just sleeping in the morning. But what's a morning? What's morning? Right? It's the beginning of a new day. It's new opportunity. It's new. Everything is fresh in the morning, right? Sun comes up, and the day, especially like the gorgeous LA spring mornings. Every once in a while, you go out to get the newspaper at 5 o'clock in the morning or whatever, and it's just like crystal clear, fresh, sweet air, and it's like life. You think you're looking to see if like it's going to become a musical. Right? It's time to... You're right, but I don't know anyone else that feels it. Like the air is just sweet and clean and, just a little bit cold and a little bit wet. It's like, that's morning. Morning is about opportunity to wake up, to be awake in your life. Who sleeps in? And again, we're not talking about teenagers. Depressed people sleep in. Right? People are trying to hide from the world. There's an element, again, not all sleep is bad. Night sleep is certainly appropriate. But if you take and find a person who's really, really down and mopey, it's tough to get out of bed in the morning. Right? That you're taking that pleasure, right? The vibrancy of being involved in life, and you're throwing it away. Right? Rav Noach used to say, people mistake pleasure for comfort, right? They think that the lack of pain is pleasure, right? They like the idea of, lying in the hammock and it's a breezy summer day and there's a drink sitting on the table next to you and you just kind of half doze, right? I said, what a pleasure, right? But, we all read the story of Ulysses, right? You do that for, 5, 10, 20, 50, 100, 200, 500 years. It gets old after a while, right? The drowsiness, the dozing is you're throwing your life away, right? You have so many days. And I think back to when my father had cancer and they were treating him and he wouldn't take his morphine, he wouldn't take the drugs because he said, I don't want to be asleep. I don't know how many hours I have left. I'm not going to spend it asleep. For us, we don't care because we figure we're eternal, we're immortal. Who cares if I burn through today and today's a total waste? I'll do something productive tomorrow. That late morning, sleeping through the time of opportunity and sleeping through the day, right? It's a fake pleasure. You think you're getting pleasure, but you're just getting comfort. Right? At a certain point, you get to August and you look back. And you thought it was a good idea to sleep all those mornings, but it's gone. Your summer is gone. You got 2 months a year to actually get out of bed and do something interesting, and you slept it all away. Right? It's like it's a muscle for what we do with our whole lives. We sleep it away. It's a form of death. It literally takes you out of the world. So how about midday wine? Yayin shel zacharayim, getting drunk at lunchtime. So again, this doesn't mean having a shot at Kiddush Club with your buddies. Right? We don't get drunk. Only good scotch or a good bourbon, once in a while a good rye, it's little sips, and you go on with your day still conscious. Remember I said you find what you do, you find a way to make it a mitzvah? Right? See, it doesn't matter what this says, I'm not, I went and saw a second cancer specialist yesterday. Guys, like supposedly one of the top guys in the country, certainly the top guy in the West Coast, and reviewed with him all the standard of care of what I'm doing, because what I'm doing is all out of the books. Nothing I'm doing is in the book, because my cancer's not in the books. It's all problematic. So he's going through all the stuff, and in the end he said, what you're doing is okay. But then he starts writing down, if you're going to do it, these are vitamins you should be taking, here's supplements, here's things you should be doing to make it better. And then he starts knocking off things that you can't eat. Right? He says, these are going to be very bad with chemo, with mucosal damage, all these things going to... And he says, alcohol, no alcohol. Doc, you know what? I get a shot on Shabbos. We talked it out, and he says, you can have a shot on Shabbos. Right? But I'm willing to have them pour chemo and whatever it takes, right? I don't drink. But to stand at Kiddush and have a small little l'chaim with your buddies and get a bracha... Doc, can you take that away from me? That's spiritual. So he actually agreed that it's actually spiritual. And as long as we keep it under, an ounce and a half across, we're talking like one normal guy's shot split amongst 4 or 5 shots I can do. But it's like I'm willing to argue with him. Right? So there's nothing wrong with a little bit. But what's drinking at lunchtime? People who drink, right? What's the, mother's little helper, like the 3 martini lunch? It's hiding from the world, right? It's anesthetizing yourself. It's checking out. The guys who want to get stoned because I don't want to be fully aware. Same thing. People ask you, are you going to take, marijuana for the nausea? It's like, I never liked marijuana as a teenager. There's plenty of nausea drugs that don't whack your brain out. It's like, you liked being whacked out. I don't even want to take the pain medications that they give me because I can't stand the idea that I'm not normally there, fully there. Unfortunately, my body metabolizes all the morphine stuff so quickly that I don't even get that much, It's like I'm popping Vicodins and people, like whatever. It's like taking a baby aspirin. I don't want to be. I like clarity. I like consciousness. It's guys who hate consciousness. So I'm not going to kill myself completely, and I'm not going to go to sleep, but I can take the edge off. All right? I don't have to worry about accomplishment. See, normally I want the pleasure of accomplishment in the world. You can get the same pleasure of accomplishment out of getting drunk with your buds. And everybody's clapping each other in the back, and you're, party, right? Party, party, party. It's a totally fake way of getting accomplishment pleasure. Right? The saying, right? The people love you and they praise you because you've done great things. You can get that same pleasure out of hanging out with a bunch of rowdies at a frat party doing shots while people are singing, Gizmo, 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 down it, down it, down it, down it. It's like, and I did the greatest, right? The whole drinking concept, right? That partying concept, it's fake, right? Half of it is fake pleasure, and half of it is hiding from the world. It's both ways. It's stealing the opportunity to grow, and it's deadening your actual participation in life. And it's a horrible... again, there's nothing wrong with having a drink, at night. You have Kiddush, you drink a little nice wine, you go to sleep. Right? It's time to go to... Right? Because, you're going to be asleep anyways. Right? It's not like it's necessarily taking anything away. But if you have time that was given to you as a gift to be alive and awake and accomplish and be out there in the world, and to say, I'm going to take the middle chunk of my day, the middle chunk of my life, and just kill it. I'm just going to drown it so I don't have to face it. I don't have to pay attention to it. I don't have to notice it. I don't have to be part of it. It's just, I'm just going to take the edge off my life. Right? It's funny. I did this one year, and I asked the question, if you could have just a little bit of brain damage, right, I'm going to give you a little chemical cocktail, and it's just going to cause not a lot of brain damage. It's not going to totally impair your ability to do anything, but it's going to pretty much make you clueless. Right? You're not going to really worry about anything. You're not going to have any concert. Picture, it's going to put you to the level that you'd be, 4 or 5 drinks under. And that's just going to be your norm, right? Who would do it? They just don't fit, right? But there's people that hide from their lives. He says, sleeping in the morning and taking, killing time, right? Or sitting in the middle of your day and taking the edge off. right? Getting drunk and wiping out part of your consciousness. It's death. They're both fake pleasures, right? It's both fake life pleasure and fake accomplishment pleasure. So the third one is children's chatter, talking about stupid stuff. Now, again, that doesn't mean if you have kids, you're not allowed to talk to your kids, right? But how much, and in fact, in our era, is the conversation that you have with people, whether it's via, our whole society has moved to nonsense chatter, whether it's on Facebook or tweeting or, right? You hang out with your buddies and you don't talk about anything meaningful. I'm not saying that I necessarily do any better. It's the Dodgers, or it's the weather, or it's clothes, or worse, it's talking about nasty things about other people, but it's just mindless. So what's the fake pleasure in mindless conversation? It's fake relationship. People want to have relationships. Your soul craves relationship. You're supposed to be an other-centered person. You get married so you can have a relationship with a person. Your soul can be connected to their soul. So you can struggle through things together, and you can lift him, and he can lift you, and you can fight the good fight together. Most people, it's a lot of work. It's a lot easier just to have a flirtatious conversation with somebody, right? Or to stand next, so you can go to Kiddush, right, and sit and talk to people, and there's people that you have walked by and said hello to, and you're on a quick chatting name basis for 15 years, but you don't know them. You don't know anything about them. You don't know what they're doing. My wife once, or someone sent me a thing. There was I forget exactly what it was, but some research project, and they split into, men and women, right? And they put the men in the room and the women in a room, and they gave them, the instruction stuff, and then, 20 minutes later, they called everybody back out before they had a chance to get very far with anything. And the first thing they looked at is the men, and they said, okay, what's his wife's name? I don't know. How many kids does he have? I don't know. What, right? The men knew nothing. They turned to the women. Okay, what's her husband's name? Bob. How many kids does she have? 3. 2 boys, 1 girl. Right? The women had already touched each other and connected to each other and started the process of becoming connected. And the guys are just like, "Buh," right? But this whole concept of people want to be and need to be connected, right? But this children's chatter is that people get involved in it's just easier to see in our society. A Facebook friend is not a friend, right? The fact that someone has friended you on Facebook does not make them your friend, right? It doesn't even make them an acquaintance, right? The fact is, how many people you talk to, guys, how many people you're friends with because they live down the block, or you're friends with them because they work in your office. But if they move to a different job, you'd never talk to them again, because you're friends with them because it happens to be that you walk down the same hallway every day, and therefore you can smile at them and nod at them, and there's some passing connection. But there's never the burden of actually making a connection to them. There's never the burden of having to actually understand them, or give to them, or lift to them. All the things we talked about in the preceding Mishnayot that a friend does for a person, right? Losing yourself, destroying your ability, or surrendering your ability to have real relationships, because when you get to the point of a relationship, the only level you get it to is children's chatter, and you never take it past that with a person. And again, it's a little death. And it's a fake pleasure, right? Again, it's both. You've lost the opportunity to have the real pleasure of a connection, and you've wasted a chunk of your life again, right? How many hours a day or how many hours a week do our kids spend on social network nonsense, right? But that's their connection. But it's not really much of a connection. Okay, last one. Motziin et ha'adam min ha'olam Maria v'yeshivat bate knesset shel am ha'aretz. Sitting in a sports bar is not the same thing as having a life. Right? Watching TV is not the same thing as having a life. Watching other people have lives is not the same thing as having a life. It's a difficult thing to get a handle on. But again, you don't always want to do it. But it's like, your job is to get out and actually go and live your life. Do stuff, build stuff, talk to people, right? Stay sober in the morning, and buy some sandpaper and make a bookshelf, or bring food to the poor, or right? People need to feel that they're part of a community. They need to feel that they're part of something greater. They need to feel connected. They need to feel uplifted. They need to feel, right? You have a drive to feel, I am part of something great and big and important. One way to get that is to be a Kings fan in a bar in Hermosa Beach at the right time of the year, right? I'm obviously an important, significant human being involved in great things, because those guys on the little screen just won a hockey match. Therefore, my life is significant. Right? It's not. It's a fake pleasure and a waste. You have this drive, so you have a drive to be awake, to accomplish, to be connected, to be meaningful. So he says people mess up and they say, I want to be asleep. I want to get drunk. Right? I want fake ways. They know they need it, and in the end they satisfy the hunger with substitutes. And at the end of the day, you're a guy who sleeps in and gets drunk and talks about stupid stuff and hangs out in a bar. And you wake up at 50 and say, what did I do with my life? Or what's worse is you don't wake up at 50. And you find that, you get to the end of your life and they get to Olam Haba and they show you what you could have been and what you were, and there's really not much anything on the what you were page. You didn't do anything. Right? And I don't mean you have to be the president. I don't mean you have to do big things. I was explaining to someone the other day, she said, how am I supposed to know what my soul, like people said, find your soul's mission. How do I figure out what my soul's mission is? I said, one way to start is to figure out what it is, what's your mission? What do you enjoy? Right? You don't want to be the president. What do you like? You like cooking for your kids. You like taking care of your husband. You like doing a favor for a friend. You're a relationship person. What you like is within your small world, you're supposed to have a connection to God, a connection to yourself, and a connection to others. So your life is about making, if that's kind of what your life is about, you should figure that's probably what your soul's looking for. Right? You don't have to be, the Rav of the, you don't have to be the president. You don't have to be the Rav of the city. You don't have to do great things. Right? There's not enough room for 6 billion people. Golda Meir says, the problem is I was the president of 2 million presidents. There's not room to have 6 billion presidents. Right? But within your circle of what your life is, what gives you pleasure?
Bill Plaschke's story. Like the idea is, here's a sports writer. You want to tell us the story?
Well, in a minute we'll tell. That's a good. Okay. But you want to do nice things, right? So that's what your soul is looking for. So now you have to try to understand where are the opportunities? I really get pleasure in being nice, doing favors for my friends and people in the local community, right? Okay. So how often are you failing to do that? Are you really looking? Are you growing? Are you looking for opportunities to do that? Are you right? But start with what it is that you love, right? You love cooking for people. Okay. Are you looking for opportunities to cook for people? Are you whatever? But it doesn't have to say, I didn't build. I didn't die. You don't have to do those things. You have to start right. The meaningful life doesn't mean that when I say you don't want to fail to have been meaningful. That doesn't mean you have to have been, an Adam Gadol, but you had to have had a meaningful life. Don't throw your life away. It's a hard mission because people they throw their lives away. You look at people and it's just, wake up. What are you doing? What are you doing? Right? It doesn't have to be big, but you can't sleep in through your days. Don't get drunk and anesthetize yourself. Don't think that chit-chat means you're having a relationship. And don't confuse hanging out with bums and rooting for a winning team with being a meaningful life and community. That's our mission.